Today we're chatting with YouTuber Jordan Green on how he went from 600 subscribers to over 50,000 using the law of attraction. Hey, it's Andrew, otherwise known as that guy who wrote the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. And today I've got a really special guest that I'm going to be interviewing. And, it's really interesting how I kind of got on this person's radar, really how he got on mine. I was just putting the finishing touches on one of my own videos. And as I was going through the uploading process, I noticed the thumbnail of another video on another channel where somebody was holding up my book. And, obviously I was a little bit interested there. So I click into it and I see this really impressive young YouTuber kind of detailing, what he learned from the book and really just giving this amazing, powerful perspective on the law of attraction and how he used it to go from only around 600 subscribers on his channel to over 50,000. And that's just one aspect. I mean, he's done a lot of other stuff with this and we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about a new book that he's working on that I can tell already is going to be just fantastic. So without any further ado, Jordan Green, thank you so much for being here and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. And I saw you holding up the book. It's so funny, man. Like, and we'll talk about this soon. You're gonna end up writing a book. There's something that no matter how long the distance between finishing the book and getting out there, you see someone holding it up, it says something to you, lets you know that you made some kind of impact in their world. And again, I really appreciate, you posted the video, which I'll put the link in the YouTube description so people can check it out. But I guess I want to follow this path because, as I understand it, and we'll kind of let you fill in the blanks, you kind of discovered the law of attraction in general, if I'm not mistaken, when you were like 600 subscribers, and now you're past 50,000. And I figured I'd hand the mic over to you and ask you, what your experiences was. What were the insights that kind of popped off that helped you go in the direction where now you're just getting higher and higher and better, and things are just unfolding for you?
Yeah. So I actually knew about the law of attraction beforehand, but I didn't really dive deep into it. I just knew about it conceptually, but I didn't really believe in it before. But one day I was watching a podcast, two of my favorite YouTubers, Steezy Kane and Sneeko, and they started talking about the law of attraction and how they used it to get to where they are because they're both wildly successful. I'm talking about, Steezy Kane has over 3 million subscribers. Sneeko has upwards of 800, 900,000, I believe. So to hear
Nice.
them talking about that, I was obviously intrigued. So I went on like the little Kindle store and I looked up law of attraction. I just, used my intuition to pick the book and I ended up picking yours. And right after I started reading your book, this was in mid January of 2020, things began to accelerate for me very rapidly. And I think a big part of the reason why is because in your book, you obviously put methods to use. And so every time I read your book, as I utilize the methods, things begin to accelerate because I'm actively like programming my subconscious mind and just tapping into, that power, that creative power. And, from there, like you said, I was at around 600 subscribers at the time, but I fell into that rabbit hole of law of attraction, from starting with the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read to documentaries, countless hours on YouTube researching the topic, reading other books. So that was kind of the catalyst. Your book, it was kind of that turning point for me, that aha moment. And from there, it's just been, riding that wave of momentum that I've built.
Awesome. I'm curious. As these things are unfolding, did you have like a specific video go viral, or did it just start accelerating? Like, how was it kind of like from you as a creator watching all the stats? What really unfolded for you when there was this acceleration of things to now? I think you're, as we record this, close to 55,000 subscribers.
It was okay. So after I started reading the book, it wasn't so much YouTube at first. It was just more about like me taking that leap of faith to go all in on YouTube. Because at the time I was working and, I was involved with this girl and there were a lot of things unfolding in my life that I wasn't particularly ready for. But all of this happened right after I started reading the book. So, I began to get these intuitive nudges to do certain things that didn't necessarily make sense on paper, which, one of them was quitting my job. And that was like the big leap of faith for me because I knew that if that didn't work, I was going to be in a pretty bad spot. But I had so much faith in it because I had no choice. So I quit my job. And at first, things were really, really slow on YouTube. I already had an audience, but I switched my content up pretty drastically. And, I started to doubt myself a little bit. Like I said, I had no choice. I had no choice but to believe, to have faith. And I think the turning point was May 24th, 2020. Posted a video that did exceptionally well for that time. And that was like, from there, it just never really slowed down. And I've just been, building off of that ever since.
Hmm. Interesting. Now, so here you're describing the situation of, well, you made the decision to go all in on YouTube, but things were happening before then. Was it like a certain, and by the way, feel free to share as much or as little detail as you kind of like resonates with you, but was there a specific method and a way by which you're doing that method? Was it like gratitude, visualization? What were you kind of like leading into as you were exploring the law of attraction in a newly discovered way now that like you've got this renewed sense of, no, let's go all in with this?
I think for me, it was definitely visualization and scripting. Those were the two things that I really implemented fully, just
Hmm.
consciously, like, because I think I've always been kind of a visual thinker. Like I like to think about the life that I want to live, but just scripting it and just consciously taking time every day to do it, especially, before you go to sleep and when you wake up, times when your mind is the most susceptible to, programming. I think that that was the main difference for me. And then once I started to build that momentum, I really began to implement gratitude more. I started gratitude journaling. That's a habit that I picked up and that I still, do to this day. And I think that that's a very, very big frequency raiser. And it really helps you stay in that state of mind to attract things to you, to attract abundance to you.
Hmm. I'm hearing a lot of stuff here, and I want to give my breakdown, but invite you to please let me know if I'm like misunderstanding or misrepresenting. But what I'm getting here, and what I think is an important lesson for people listening, is you didn't do everything all at once. You kind of ease your way into it. I mean, well, also you were strategic. You're like, okay, I've done this research, and I realize that the mind is the most open at the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And with that understanding, I'm going to choose to script in those moments. And then as things were happening, okay, now I'm uncomfortable with this. I can add gratitude into the mix in a more intentional way, even though I'm sure you were feeling it. So the feeling I'm getting from you is it wasn't an overnight thing, nor did it have to be, because you were just riding the wave, enjoying the ride, letting things unfold, and kind of, at least now I'm kind of speaking from my own personal experience. I'm making the assumption about you, but you're like gaining confidence in this, like, okay, like I knew it worked and it made sense that it worked, but now that I'm getting the life experience, it's not a thing about thinking it, it's a thing about knowing it. And you can't really know it until you're actually going through it. Is that a fair way to describe it for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing that a lot of people the reason why manifestation doesn't seem to work for a lot of people is because they, how do I put this? They just overcomplicate things. And that's something that I really liked about your book is that you said any of the methods on their own is powerful enough to consciously manifest the life that you desire. But when you start to implement more and more of them, obviously you're just going to build more momentum. But as long as you're programming your mind, that's the most important thing. And that to me is, like I said, that's what kind of sets your book apart from most of the other books that I've read about it. It's
Thank
just,
you.
it's really, yeah, no problem. It's really about programming your subconscious mind.
Yeah, seems like we're both on board about the understanding that there's a strategy to this. You're still enjoying
Yeah.
life, but like be strategic. What can you do to serve yourself? What can you do to make the most of this as long as you're leaning into it? And one thing I just want to say now, we all have our own personalities and our levels of certainty and confidence in this and that. And the one thing about the book that I had the luxury of is I spit it out over the course of like 9.5 weeks, and then I massaged it. And I was very intentional about it making sense, like word to word, sentence to sentence, page to page, chapter to chapter. I was like, this is going to be an experience from page 1 to page 208. But I had this like this room to hit the backspace and retype. I noticed me, and obviously I'm very sure of myself in these videos. When I'm recording, man, you can see like little skips because I'll lose my train of thought. I'll say, I'll say like, I'll say, and what I really noticed about your video that I'll link people to is you didn't do that. You were so in the zone. There's this level of certainty and comfort in the words you were communicating. I was like, I was just, see, I just said like right there. I was so excited. I'm like, this, I'm so glad, whether it was my book or anyone else's, this dude is so set in. And the really thing that excited me about that is when people give a presentation that way, their viewers take it in all the more easier. They're all the more welcome to it. So I just want to credit you with that and thank you for that, because that's probably like the thing that no one will ever acknowledge someone for. It's like, of course, you're going to say something like it's a YouTube video, but a lot of people don't pay attention to the lack of ums and all those other things when a really important message is being put through. I was curious, like, as you were giving that message, was that like a one take? Did you just riff? Were you thinking about it before? Like, what was your experience as you were prepping and recording that specific video?
Well, first of all, I definitely appreciate the kind words. And I think that for me, it depends on the video. Like just on a video to video basis, my process is very much the same. Either, I have key points already in place, kind of stay on track, or I just kind of go off the dome with it. And for that video, I don't really remember when I posted that video because I've posted a lot of videos on my channel. But if it was last year, I probably did it with like key points. And I think that that really, really helps me to stay on track because just like I lose my train of thought very easily, like very, very, very easily. So, that's just that's the way that I stay on track personally.
Yeah.
And I learned that in public speaking class in like sophomore year of high school.
Well, you would not have known it watching, and it was in October. I know it's October because again, I saw this video just a few weeks ago, and I'm like, how have I not seen this video before? And again, it's so funny the way the YouTube algorithm works before it pops something in front of you. And one thing you mentioned there, I think it's very important to acknowledge because you're saying you post so many videos. It's like, okay, Andrew, tell me when I posted it, and I'll tell you my process because I post so much. Even in the course of things unfolding in such an amazing way, it's such a dramatic way, you're putting the work in. You're taking what I would describe as inspired action. So I figured, I'd open the floor to you. I mean, are you on the same page with me on that? Like you took a lot of action and it is about inspired action, or am I kind of off in how I'm thinking that you see the situation?
I think that inspired action is definitely important. Um, I like to think that it's like 75% belief and faith and just your mindset and 25% action.
Hmm.
Because if you're not in the right state of mind, the action won't matter. It's kind of like I was just talking with a friend about this yesterday. It's kind of like being on a treadmill. You can go as fast as you want, but you're not going anywhere. You're not moving. You're not making any progress. And that's kind of the distinction that I'm really trying to help my supporters find is that action is necessary, but it starts with the belief. It starts with the foundation to know that you're moving in that direction. That's where you're going. And for me, filming videos every day, that's something that is not necessary for everyone, but for me, I find filming videos to be kind of therapeutic and it just makes me feel accomplished. So it's something that I strive for even to this day, and I hope to continue doing that for as long as I can.
I love it. So, for anyone that finds their way to this video, because like how do I get from 650,000? There's an obvious enjoyment in the process. Otherwise, I'm assuming it's just without that enjoyment, it's gonna be such an uphill battle. And that applies to YouTube, it applies to your career, it applies to a business, it applies to a relationship, it applies to one's relationship with themselves, it applies to everything. And you pretty much articulated that perfectly right there. Quick little question here, because I always ask, not that anyone can do it their own way, but whenever I hear someone's been succeeding through scripting, I ask like what way you did it. Was it handwritten, typing, spoken, or a combination?
I think it was a little bit of everything. I have a journal. Um, I believe it's story scripting, right? Where
Hmm.
you, yeah, story scripting. That was probably the biggest one for me personally. I've used that to manifest a lot of different things. The relationship that I'm in, any subscriber goal that I've ever hit, just everything. And it's crazy because, I'll write it and kind of forget about it. And then a few months later, I'll look back at it, and the accuracy, like when comparing that to the life that I'm living, is astounding. Like it almost doesn't seem real. And that's why like sometimes I don't really talk about it that much in my videos, just because it's hard for me to prove that, yeah, I actually wrote this a few months ago. But with especially in regards to my relationship, I shared my scripting with my girlfriend, and I actually put that in a video as well as a spoken word. And then like I started off the video directly after that by saying that I wrote that a few months before I met my girlfriend. And a lot of people were shocked by that, including her. And they were very shocked to see that I manifested that. And that's one of the beautiful things about my channel, is that I'm kind of proving myself, and I'm proving that manifestation works as I talk about it. The
Hmm.
receipts are all there. You can like see me, saying I'm going to hit 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to hit this many. I'm going to be doing YouTube full time. Like that's kind of, that's why I've grown like an emotional attachment to my channel at this point.
I love it. I love it. So you said, what was her specific reaction when you showed that the first time? You had her, I guess you had her read the scripting that you'd done before meeting her, right?
Yeah. I don't I don't remember if I showed her the video first or if I read it to her directly. But I remember she was very shocked, like really, really shocked to know that I read that, or that I wrote that before I met her, because it's almost like down to a T. So
Nice,
it
nice.
was crazy.
Cool. I want to make another quick observation here, and I do just like whenever I interview people, I'm just like trying to pull as much gold as possible because I know the people watching, they'll have questions, and hopefully we can reel some insights here. But before I asked you, what that video was like, you're like, well, I don't remember so much, and I asked you about this, and like, well, I don't know if I showed it to her, the video, I read it. I think this is really important for people to understand that a lot of times this experience, it isn't like you're watching the clock or you're keeping score. You're living your life, and things are just unfolding. And it's a thing where it's not that it isn't important, and it's not that it isn't important to you and doesn't make an impact on you, but that level of detail, and again, just to speak for you, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't matter. What matters is the enjoyment in life. What matters is the fact that this is manifesting. And as you kind of put in your own words, you are a living, breathing, walking example for other people, that you're just leading by example for them so they can see that this works and you're just doing it. So I kind of again want to shine a spotlight on that, because I think it's important for people to not worried if they remember the details. If that's their mindset, great. They're thinking sharper than you and me, I guess, but they don't need to. They more need to
Right.
just like enjoy it, let it unfold, experience it, and let it be what it is. Would you agree as I describe it that way?
Definitely. I definitely advocate for the idea of setting it and forgetting it. You just set your intention and you live your life. Because one thing that I've realized just in conscious manifestation is when you go after goals, you never really reach the end. Like there's always going to be something else out there to achieve. Um, every destination is just a checkpoint along the journey. And once you realize that, you learn to enjoy each and every step. And ironically, that's what brings abundance to you. You become a magnet for it. And a lot of opportunities begin to flow your way. Like for example, Andrew reaching out to me via email for this interview. That's not something that's not an intention that I set. It's just, I was in that state of mind, and it just happened.
What are your tips, or what's your advice for people that want to engage in a gratitude or scripting process, or anything that you might want to advise them on? What would you say to them if you want them to get, a lead in the beginning, and get really comfortable, and just start like leaning in the way you leaned in?
Focus on the feeling. That's the most important thing, because your subconscious mind responds to feeling more than anything. So focus on the feeling of having what you desire. And what you'll realize in doing that is that you don't need the thing that you desire to actually feel the way that you want to feel. Because at the end of the day, you don't want that thing. You want the feeling it'll provide you. Now, if you want money, there's a feeling associated with money, with having money that you want. And feelings are free. They're free and accessible to everyone at any given time. So if you can learn to master your feelings and use different things, different memories or music and things like that to enhance the feeling and build that momentum, everything else will take care of itself. At that point, it's just a matter of having faith. And it's very easy to have faith when you're living your best life because you're not focused on the future. You're living in the now.
I love that. I love the way you mentioned music. It's like you are for you, I get the feeling, again, I'm making assumptions here. It comes naturally in the sense that you know intuitively, okay, I'm gonna play music that's gonna help me access the feeling because all I want is that feeling, or I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna choose this time of day. I'm going like me knowing myself as Jordan Green, I'm gonna make these decisions and these choices, knowing it's gonna give me the most leverage in these processes. That's what I'm getting from you.
Definitely. That's something that I talk about in my book as well is one thing that I did is I combined scripting and music. And I listened to
Nice.
certain music while scripting. And the feeling that you get when doing that, you know that it's working when your body starts like I want to say tingling. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it.
Yeah, when you
Um
said it, my brain said buzzing, just as you were going to complete
yeah,
that sentence.
yeah. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If you know, you know. Like it's like this pulsating feeling like all over your body. And anyone who hasn't experienced it will probably think that we're crazy.
yeah,
But just when you try it and you actually feel it for yourself, it's hard to ignore.
yeah. And I would say to people listening, it is a wonderful feeling. And if you don't feel it right away, don't judge yourself or don't worry. Just keep on keeping on and keep doing your thing. And you mentioned the book. I know you're in the process of writing it. Do you have a specific release date in mind for it, or you're kind of like letting it unfold the way it's going to unfold?
I'm letting it unfold the way it's going to unfold because the thing is, I've never actually written anything of this caliber before. Like, anything with chapters, maybe like at the longest, like a 5-page essay. So to go from that to writing an entire book, it's a little overwhelming. And I'm also learning things like as I'm writing it. So I'm trying not to rush into it just because I know that as I learn new things, I want to implement them into the book.
Hmm.
But I'd like to get it out next year, sometime next year.
Nice. I don't want to give away the title, but do you have a title in mind yet, or that hasn't been decided yet?
I have no idea. Title, cover, all of that. It's just kind of I'm just focused on like the contents right now. And then the title and everything. And that's kind of the way that that's kind of the same process that I have with my videos as well. I just kind of like focus on the content and then the title and thumbnail come afterwards.
Now, I know obviously, like, this is a law of attraction channel. We've got that going on, but I do believe aspiring YouTubers will find this also. So, just to glean a little extra insight here and come from left field, do you have any personal advice on thumbnails or video titles or things like that people might want to emulate?
I'd say the most important thing is you have to know your audience because one thing that I've learned is not everyone is going to respond to the same thing or the same way to the same thing. So, if you have a lot of bright colors in your thumbnail and you're doing your titles in all caps and everything like that, that's going to appeal to a younger audience naturally than it will to an older audience. And the thing is, you can't, how do I put this? It's hard to please everyone and it's hard to draw in everyone. So you have to know who your target audience is and kind of mold your style to them, but also stay unique at the same time.
Hmm.
And just trial and error. That's always going to be the best way to learn. Just trial and error.
Yeah, just got to be yourself. Because in the end, when you think about it from a YouTubing perspective and from a subscriber count, you are way ahead of me right now. But even as I am pumping out content now more and more, it's very clear to me that if I don't love this, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. So I've got to, even at the very bare minimum, I've got to be enjoying the process. I've got to be enjoying the content. I've got to like what I'm doing because the last thing I want to be is successful at something that I hate because I won't sustain it anyway. I might as well try to be successful at what I love doing because that's the only thing I'm going to continue to keep doing for myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you don't, that's something that I always tell people. YouTube is great. Like I love it. But if you do not love this, like if you don't love the game beyond the prize, you're gonna burn yourself out because it takes a different type of energy to get in front of a camera and just talk to it every day. It's hard to explain to people that haven't tried it before, but I mean, there's a lot of people who are probably very good speakers, very eloquent speakers, and confident, extroverted people, outgoing people. But they'll get in front of that camera, and as soon as you press the record button, they'll fold because they don't love it. And I think that camera presence is something that can be developed, but you have to have that underlying passion behind it if you ever want to get to that point.
Love it. Love it. Cool. So switching up directions again, whether it's my book or anyone else's book, what gratitude processes do you enjoy in particular?
I actually have this gratitude journal right here that I
Nice.
use. I think you can get it on Amazon. I forgot how much it's pretty cheap. It's definitely worth the money though, obviously. But
Hmm.
that allows me to consciously and intentionally acknowledge the things that I'm grateful for every night and every morning. And I think that that's very important for me, just to
Hmm.
wake up and acknowledge those things. And there's so many things, man. People don't understand how many things there are to be grateful for in their lives. There's little things like, for example, we're doing this interview right now. I'm doing it on my phone, and this is an iPhone 10 Max, something like that. I don't even know the name, but when I first got this phone, it was like, man, this is a really, really nice phone. I love it. But then over time, you adjust to it. It's like, okay, this is my phone, just like any other phone. So in gratitude journaling every day, it allows me to acknowledge that feeling that I felt when I first got it. And I can do that for everything, including just existing, being grateful for my very existence, because that's the common denominator between everything else. So I think that that's just taking that time every day. Just take like 5 minutes out of your day to just consciously think about these things.
Got it. Now, do you set a timer yourself or you just go free flow until you feel complete?
I just go free flow. Within the gratitude journal, like there's prompts. One of the things that it'll say is like, all of the things that you're grateful for. And usually with that, I'll do I believe it was called the blitzing method, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
blitz
gratitude
method.
blitz. Yep.
Yeah, the gratitude blitz. And I'll just, list off a bunch of things. And
Awesome. I love it. So you're doing, beginning of the day and the end of the day. Do you also do scripting every so often now? Like, how does that fit into place with what you're doing these days?
at this point, I don't really script that often. It's more of like a once every few months type of thing because I'm just so in the flow now. Like I'm not really in that spot where I feel like, okay, I need to make this work because it's already working. Now it's just about expansion for me and just growing what I already have. And, occasionally I'll set that intention if I'm feeling inspired to do it. Because obviously, like you said in the book, it's supposed to feel good. It's supposed to feel good. And that's the most important thing. If it feels like a chore, then as I would say, you're hustling backwards. And, I just focus on enjoying the process of everything that I'm doing because I know that it's going to get me to where I want to go in life. And because I'm already on that path. So that to me is the most, that's the way that I go about it.
Awesome. And you can tell I'm really just asking. I want to show people here because whenever I'll see an interview, everyone does it their own way. But that's the thing, it's their own way and it fits for them. And I love your approach to this because it seems like, you're loose and easy about the whole thing. You're not fixing requirements or, or deadlines or anything like that. You're just going with the flow. And it seems like the feeling gets like you did that from the very beginning. Once you started, when you were at 600 subscribers, you kind of just like went with the flow. You learned things, you tweaked and you just moved forward as things kind of came to you.
Well, I would actually say at first, especially after I quit my job, I was very, very intentional about the way that I did things. Like I had goals and deadlines just because, if I didn't, I felt like I'm gonna go broke. Like it was like, when your back is against the wall, usually that'll inspire you to kind of have more of a hustle mindset as opposed to a flow mindset. But basically from the moment that I got things to work for me, like that I crossed that threshold to say that, okay, I never have to work a job again. That right there, from there, it's like, okay, you're just flowing and expanding and just letting things unfold as they will at this point.
Any go away advice from a YouTuber's perspective for people that want to just grow their YouTube channel and be successful that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, the best advice I could give is just don't quit. That's really the only difference between successful YouTubers and non-successful YouTubers. I've seen a lot of people on my journey that had more subscribers than me, or had just as much, if not more, talent than I have, but they just stopped. They just stopped posting.
Hmm.
And it's like, I know in my heart, with the same level of certainty that I have in myself, that if they just kept posting, they might have been one video away. That next video that might be the video that changes your life, because it only takes one. It only takes one video to completely change the trajectory of your life. And I'm speaking from experience with that. So just always have that mindset. This next video might be the one. Just keep posting.
Love it, love it. That mindset applies to everything, YouTube and everything else. So thank you for sharing that. And I remember, if I remember correctly, you said January of 2020 is when this kind of happened. So that's when you were at 600 subscribers or so, around there.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
remember? Because again, I know this has been a fun blur for you, but were there any benchmarks of like, okay, well by March I had this many, or by May I had this many? Do you remember certain benchmarks of 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 as you kind of progressed?
Yeah. So at the time when I started reading the book, my goal was to hit 1,000 subscribers by August, which I know it sounds like, I was on track to hit that, but mathematically speaking, I wasn't. Like if you just looked at the amount of subscribers that I was gaining on a month to month basis, like I wasn't on track to hit that at all. But I kind of like steadily grew to about 950 by April, I believe. About April, maybe 900. It's closer to 900. And then when I had that one video that just popped off, a few weeks later, I was at like 1,500 subscribers. And at that point, that's about the time that I started making money off of YouTube. And that's where it was like, okay, now, I don't have to work anymore. This is what I do. Like I'm a full-time YouTuber. So that to me was like the biggest check mark of any, because that was like the biggest lifestyle change. But I know I hit 10,000 in October, I'm pretty sure. And about a month later, I hit 20,000. My channel like
Mhm.
doubled in size.
Wow.
And yeah, and then from there, it was kind of like slower growth, like from like the start of November through about March. I went from like 20,000 to 34,000 ish, something around there. This last month, May, I actually gained like 11,000 subscribers. So I mean, even now I'm still growing very quickly. Like this is probably the quickest that I've ever grown on my whole YouTube journey. And even though I've kind of learned to detach from the numbers, which that's another thing that I would tell aspiring YouTubers. But even though I've learned to detach from the numbers, it's honestly almost overwhelming for me to like see all of the opportunities presenting themselves and to see, my life, my dream life literally unfolding right in front of my eyes. And like there's been times where I'll think about it and I just break down because it's like I think about how far I've come. And I don't want to make it seem like I never doubted myself on my journey, because I definitely did. But I just let my faith be stronger than my doubt.
Hmm.
And that's the reason why I prevailed.
Thank you. So thank you, by the way, for sharing at the end. I think it's important for people to realize, especially in the beginning, there's going to be doubts, but that doesn't mean that this is a closed case. Also, I love the fact that, over those first 9 or 10 months, that 10,000 there, and then in 1 month, it was another 10,000. And I think that really speaks to the fact that not that we need to put requirement or we should put requirement on this, but I think it happens often just in life when it comes to like really leaning into the law of attraction and really taking this in as part of our lives. It'll be slow going to get one place, and then all of a sudden there'd be like this rocket right to the next place. There can be this exponential boost in whatever you're doing, and you never know when it's going to come. Could it come in a month? Could it come in a year? Could it come in a week? Who knows? But I love the fact that this is actually why I asked you about your progression, because I almost had a funny feeling that there was going to be something where part of it was a little bit more drawn out, even though a lot of people I'm sure would kill for 10,000 within less than a year. but there was that part that was drawn out versus like boom, another spike that was right on the heels of it. So thank you for sharing that.
Definitely. I think one thing that I definitely want to leave people on, especially if you're doing YouTube, is to honor the season that you're in. That's something that I heard from Heinz, another great YouTuber. Honor the season that you're in. You know, there's going to be seasons of slow growth. I think he called it bamboo growth, and then there's going to be seasons of rapid growth. It's kind of like when you plant seeds in the ground. You know it's growing. It might take a long time, but you don't doubt that a plant will sprout from those seeds from the soil, even though you can't see them. And it may not grow at the same rate the whole time, but you have faith that eventually those seeds will turn into something much greater.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on the spot right now because I've read this and I don't remember the exact figures. So these numbers are probably not right, but regarding the bamboo, it's like if I remember correctly, it's a thing where they plant the seed and they literally like water and tend to the soil for like 5 years and it comes up a little. And then at some point, like within a year, it shoots up 100 feet. Like
Yeah,
it's, or probably even less within a couple of months. It's one of those things where they tend so much and so much is going on, but you just don't see it. But because they've done this before, they know inevitably there comes that point where it just rockets to the moon very easily and very automatically.
exactly. And just like you said, it's all about the knowing. You have to know with certainty, 100% certainty. Your faith has to overpower your doubts. Once you have that knowing feeling that there is no way I'm not going to succeed at this. Absolutely no way. It may take a while. I don't know how long it'll take, but I know that I'm getting there. Every day I'm getting closer. And if you focus on the small wins, penny on the ground, if you focus on the penny on the ground, the wealth will follow.
Love it. Love it. Well, so great advice in that regard. And one, I guess one more thing to ask you, because we've covered like, final advice to YouTubers, just in general, law of attraction advice, any final parting words you might want to have for people, just in terms of whether they're just starting out or they've kind of been in the game before, they've been in the game for a while and they want to get some kind of growth. They want to get some kind of result. They want to manifest something. What would you say to them listening right now? They want to really get moving with it.
Embrace the journey. And like I said, the penny on the ground. That's one of the most powerful things that I think I took away from your book is just celebrating each and every win, all of the small wins. That's going to be very important because you have to understand that when you put everything into perspective, what might be a penny right now to somebody else or even to yourself in the past, that might have been worth $100. It's just that over time, your mind, I guess you can call it like spiritual inflation, where certain things
Mm.
don't hold the same level of value. And, for me, for example, for me to gain like 100 subscribers in a day right now, that's my channel underperforming compared to the standard. But if you went back to Jordan in January of 2020 and he just got 100 subscribers in one day, he would freak out. Like he would absolutely trip over that because he's increasing his channel by so much. And when you learn to celebrate those 100 subscribers in the same way that you would have back then, that's when abundance really starts to flow in. So just appreciate each and every win along the journey. Because at the end of the day, life is just one long journey. Destinations are an illusion that you create in your mind.
Love that.
So just embrace the moment.
Jordan, you were inspiring me. I don't know if I've ever heard spiritual inflation before, and it got my mind thinking like, now I'm gonna have to do a video on like manifestational compound interest or something because I think that's awesome. And I also want to say again, I mean this, and this is why I was so excited to invite you on my channel, and I'm so grateful that you accepted. I hold it as a very high compliment, high praise that you attribute any from my content from what you're saying because I love what you're saying and I think it's so helpful. I'm so grateful that you're saying it to a channel, when you do those videos, to a channel of over 50,000, and I'm so grateful more people are going to hear it. And really, I'm just grateful for you to be coming on here, sharing your time, sharing your wisdom, and giving people the breadcrumbs that they might be looking for so that they can do this for themselves in their own lives in their own way. So thank you, sir, for coming on today. I truly, truly appreciate you beyond words.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me and thanks for reaching out. That that was definitely a great moment.